Well, I guess that's the start of the stream. I accidentally stopped the music.
How dare you?
Close enough. Always do this. I always click off something to check, and then I try and go back to my art. But I want to pan it, so I hold down spacebar to pan. But I haven't actually clicked on the thing yet, so I spacebar whatever I had clicked, which usually pauses music or videos. Way too much detail for people who don't care about the minutiae of my work.
Everyone should care.
Nobody should care.
Everyone should care.
'Tis not interesting. Swoosh. Boom. We're at the canvas. There's a sneaky rogue cat. Oh, there's a big cat. And a happy little dragon tail cat. I want to say a happy dragon cat, but I'm pretty sure it's just a tail. Hey, miss. I'm professional. You will never hear the end of that piece of music. How's it all going?
I mean, if you play it all the way through, we'll hear the end of it.
Never. I'll make it a point whenever I play that piece of music to stop it before it finishes. That is absolute promise. Guarantee. Asterisk. Hi! Welcome to a stream with a Chib and a Ragdoll.
Hi.
Hello.
And a Miss in chat. Hi! Yes, we're back to doing the RPG things. We've still got the old RPG generator. It served us well, and so we're going to exploit it some more for content.
Content.
Content. Oh, the audience loved that.
Audience love content.
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 They also love this big chunk cat.
Maybe.
Yeah, I want a reskin of Dark Souls 2's Covetous Demon, but it's this. Just flopping around. Be great.
I mean, let's just replace all of the bosses in that game with cats of various sizes.
Yes. Can agree. I mean, one of them's already a cat. One of them's a dog who's a rat.
What?
Exactly. Smooch the cat's paw. Smooch. It's lifting its paw for you to smooch.
Please smooch his paw. That's how you become part of the mafia.
the Nyafia?
Yes.
It's almost a joke. Yee! So who would like to go first drawing? And who would they like to get a prompt from?
Well, there's only 3 options and then 2 options.
Yes. That's 6 options.
That's too many.
I understand binomial coefficients. And or factorials, depending on your perspective.
Consider less options?
I consider fewer options.
Because in mathematics, there is a difference between less and fewer.
Less is for values, fewer is for quantities.
And yes, there is a difference in mathematics between those two things.
I'm gonna draw first, so you
Chief's
can
gonna draw.
get your maths talk out. I don't have to listen to this nonsense.
Who do you want the prompt from?
Well, last time I got it from Ragdoll, so now I'll get it from you.
From me! Okie dokie, you have... a cheerful dwarf bard from a conquered city who won a duel they were supposed to lose out of sheer luck.
I think that sounds right for a bard.
That does sound right for a bard, but also that's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm sure the DM is just sitting here going, right, there goes all of those plot lines I was working on.
Yeah. Is Dark here? Is he angry yet?
Let's see. Dwarf. I
Dwarf.
don't know what to do with dwarves.
Beard. And then you're basically done.
Gotta make him real happy.
E. They are cheerful. Is it a cheerful dwarf bard or a cheerful dwarven bard?
Now the question is, do they know they won out of sheer dumb luck?
Oh yeah, that's a point.
Oh,
In my head, I don't think they even knew they were part of a duel.
oh no. Absolutely not. Absolutely just had, like, no idea.
Wink.
Yes, gotta be flirty and sassy like any good bard.
Mhm. Exactly.
And or a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Both.
And please.
Yeah, definitely both. Um, beard. What's a
Like I don't know nothing about the D's and the D's, but I've gathered some things from people's explanations of their games and their characters and stuff like that. And bards are an interesting situation because not an awful lot of use physically.
I don't know why my first instinct is to give him a pompadour, but
Pompadour.
we're going with it.
I mean, depending on how you play them, they can be sort of roguelike as far as their use in battle. But what I always find funny is like every other caster type, there's some cosmic reason for why they can do magic. So, like, wizards have been studying this, sorcerers, it's in their bloodlines. Warlocks have a primordial sugar daddy of some sorts, and clerics and paladins get their magic through their faith through a deity. Bards insult you, and that casts a spell on you. So it's like,
I I mean it's partially like based on like how enchanting music can be, like their entire class, and I just went from there.
oh yeah. So like, but I'm not talking about stuff like the whole idea of some of their skills are like, oh, they play a song, and then it's like, or they do a thing, and like everyone is like, oh, I feel motivated and enchanted by this. But bards do also get just like regular spell slots, like lightning.
Yeah, power of music.
The power
The
of
power of
music.
music compels you. Zap.
It's interesting they went with music. Like there was a theoretical D&D world where poetry could do the same thing, or
I mean,
some
yeah,
other sort
that
of
is.
I mean, I think in general, bards can be just any sort of
Mm,
performer. A lot of people just kind of like going with the music thing because it's fun.
yeah.
Cantrips are haikus.
Um, I mean, they can be. But yeah, I've heard of like people because they are usually performance, and I've heard people like come up with just fun shenanigans. Like, I want to be a dancer bard. They inspire people with dance.
Yeah, that is. So I guess a lot of my initial interaction with this sort of thing was from Final Fantasy V, which had a job system.
Hmm.
So you could just sort of equip a job to a character, and they would have different abilities based on the character, based on the job. and a lot of those are derived from D&D. A lot of these things are obviously inspired by D&D. And
Mhm.
there are bards and dancers in those games, and they cast spells based on their cool moves or wicked songs or whatever. And
Yeah.
young me was always just confused as like, how does this work? How does
Don't
doing a
worry,
tango make them want to attack their friends?
power of dance,
The
baby.
power of dance. Like that one actually makes sense. You can kind of seduce, bewitch them
Mhm.
with a dance or something.
Yeah. So,
Um,
like I said, stuff like with like inspiration, or we do things that like this particular type of singing is just really confusing to monsters because noises are a thing. Like that sort of stuff makes sense. It's when they're sitting here going, "I cast lightning bolt from my fingers," that it's like, all right, this is no longer based off of your performing ability. Uh, Although I have known quite a few stage hands where it's like, oh, it's you seem to be doing magic.
yeah, how about that? A bard, but they're not actually the performer. They are, they assist in performers' acts, and that's how they cast
Mhm.
Bard, that's
spells.
stage crew.
Yeah. I want to play a roadie, magical roadie. You are powering through a Gallic lesson. Nice. Power Gallic.
Bard group where every bard is some different specialty, and one of them's just the roadie in the background.
Mm-hmm. They cast support magic. Amplification, uh, ear protection, blinding lights, that sort of thing. It all works. Podcast you listen to, there is a bard who is also a knight, and the way he uses his bard skills is through poetry. See, poetry. It is a thing. What
Oh
other
yeah, it
abstract?
sure is a thing.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense because a lot of spells are sort of chanted. There's magical words. Actually, I think there was an episode of Doctor Who about that. Shakespeare and witches. Words being the power of the magic.
Mhm.
I don't know. That was a bad episode.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. There's been a lot of episodes of Doctor Who, more than one dealing with Shakespeare stuff, and a lot of episodes of Doctor Who are just bad.
Yeah. As a fan of Doctor Who, yeah. However, they have recently shown a new picture of the new Doctor and their companion in 1960s. Well, I assumed Britain. I'm not. Just 1960s. And they're brilliant. I'll post it in Discord with spoilers just in case anybody doesn't want to be spoiled about forthcoming Doctor Who things.
I mean, just from a probabilistic sense, when you've existed that long and had that many creative minds working on you, not everything is going to be stellar. Something is going to suck.
Yeah, I mean, I shared the Candyman last time, didn't I?
I like this bard. He seems
He's
very enthusiastic.
a very like classic bard, I feel. Other than the fact that he is a dwarf. Feel like usually when people think of a bard stereotype, they don't think of dwarves first, but just makes it fun.
Yeah.
See, that
Here
makes
is
it more interesting when you're doing a class that's not associated with that race.
here is spoilers for new Doctor Who outfit. Look away if you don't want spoilers. Looking very 60s. I love it. When they first showed it off, I was like, they didn't mention the 60s bit. I was just like, is that the new outfit? I mean, I'm going for it. That's fine. Strong, what's the word? Strong vision. There was a time when they were all going to town, and as they were heading towards the gates, the barns just told the group a story of an old legend of a god who wanders the woods, and that was how he cast a spell to give them their stat boost. Just telling their story. Nice. It's placebo, turns out. Also, hi, Kira.
Hi, Kiro.
Now the question is, does this bard have an instrument, and if so, what kind?
Mm, I
Or are
don't
we just going to
know.
say it's hidden in his backpack? That way you don't have to draw an instrument.
I mean, that definitely, but we can still talk about which instrument he would have. Or maybe he doesn't have an instrument.
Kazoo.
Kazoo. No. I veto that one.
To make this pose to make sure the thumb was on the correct side. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
most people
Closest.
I know who are professional or semi-professional musicians usually have multiple instruments they know how to play, even if they don't know how to play each one of them well.
I thought you were going to say multiple thumbs.
Yeah, I was also like, okay, how is this gonna relate to the thumbs?
So, oh, no wonder I can learn the bloody violin.
I mean, I should hope you have multiple thumbs, but they ideally should be one on each hand.
Yes. Traditionally.
But what if?
Have you
Non-traditional.
you ever played Remnant? Panpipes.
Why do I always do hands on hips, and why can I never draw it?
Oh, don't. So I have a character called Malachi, who was always standing with his hands on his hips.
I always think I got it, and then I don't got it. And it's supposed that's like not easy to do when like you try to do it yourself, and it's just like how do people
never
even feel like this?
Even when you see photos, it doesn't look right. There is just something about a hand on a hip that just doesn't. What's happening to this thing? It's not. It's not natural.
It's because you can't see half of the hand and it makes your brain think it doesn't exist. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's the curvature of the hand itself as it's resting on the side of it, and the fingers are all pointing in different directions. I'm bad with hands as it is.
Probably should be standing on something.
A convenient box.
A convenient cube.
Oh, maybe their instrument is the cajon, which is just a box you sit on and hit.
Yes.
They're a percussionist.
Yeah. All bards, they're always playing melodic instruments. They need a percussionist every now and then, you know? Some maracas, cajon, tambourine, you know?
I mean, you say that, but Jurgen is a bard and he plays the drums.
There you go. See?
But I don't think anyone wants Jurgen to play for them. You know, just out of principle.
But does he play himself as an instrument, seeing as he's, made out of wood?
No. He hasn't yet.
Is his body hollow enough to make nice donking sounds if something
I
hits
don't
him with
think it
mallet?
is. I think it's like filled with straw and stuff. So, like it would make a pretty like dull instrument.
Aw, darn.
For anyone that wants to whack Jurgen, I guess. He'd make a dull instrument.
But a flammable one, because he's full of straw.
I mean, yeah.
Well, when you say full of straw, is there any, like, air in there? Because you could use it as a rudimentary maraca.
I guess there would be some air in there, yeah.
Okay, so with a hard enough shake, you can get a maraca feel out of Jurgen.
Just start shaking him real hard.
I'm sure there's plenty of characters who would like to shake him real hard.
I mean, at the very least, it's a wood block. That in and of itself is an instrument. No.
Anyway,
good.
this is my dwarf board, I guess.
Yeah. Ridiculously lucky kazoo playing bard.
He doesn't play the kazoo.
I mean, he could. They're not
No.
that hard.
He could, but he won't.
Yeah. Cool.
He
It's good. Right, I guess having dished out the prompt, I now receive one. So
get banjo vibes from him.
banjo.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
Think it's the roll up sleeves.
Got to roll up your sleeves to play the banjo.
Yeah.
gets out of the way of the strings.
Yeah, and also a banjo has like a drum membrane, which is how it sort of makes its sound. It doesn't have a hot, big, hollow body like an acoustic guitar. And if your sleeves rub against that, it's going to get all scratchy and not good.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, you get the healer of the party, a
Yay.
faithful half-orc cleric from a royal lineage who seems to know everyone.
I'm imagining like a kind of like an agent, like an acting agent, who's just got like everyone's business card and greets you at a party with "darling," that kind of thing, you know?
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And they're royalty, so they know
so
they know
fits.
people.
Mm-hmm.
How does the cleric fit in? I don't really know anything about clerics.
I mean, I know plenty of people where part of their mission work essentially is they do the singing and organist stuff. So hymns.
I mean, just in general,
May-
like a church leader would know everyone.
Maybe something like Sister Acty.
They've just seen everyone at church. And now they're trying to recruit you for their MLM.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry, just immediately jumped to a different definition of MLM. Always happens. I always pick the wrong one.
That's fair. I mean, they might also want to recruit you for that MLM, but I don't know how that would work out for them.
We're recruiting for the polycule. We're taking applications.
Yes. Please bring your resume to our next date.
I mean, if it's an all-male polycule, would it be a multi-level MLM?
Multi-level MLM.
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 MLM. They are faithful. I'm just imagining a lot of sort of rosaries and icons and things like that hanging around the neck.
Mm-hmm.
A very dynamic pose already.
Yeah, good pose work.
I want to get the sense of swishiness, you know, that they just sort of saunter, float through social gatherings.
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted them to be carrying a martini glass, but I'm not entirely sure that's lore accurate.
I mean, it might be. Nobody ever said that in their religion you're not allowed to drink.
I mean, if you're Catholic, you drink wine quite a bit.
Yeah, true.
And there are different deities in D&D, so who's to say
D&D.
this isn't... They're not a... Uh, who's to say they're not a follower of a deity that isn't a little more party and celebration oriented?
Hmm. Also true.
Sorry, I've just realised I'm on a stream.
It happens to the best of us, Chris.
Yeah, I'm going with one of Miss's ideas, which is this is Beth's cousin. So we're gonna go similar sort of design. Half elf, half orc.
It doesn't
Beth,
say what the other half is, so...
yeah,
Yep,
Beth was
that's
half elf, half orc, canonically.
that was always my thing with Beth. It's like, so whenever you hear a half elf, it's always
Yeah.
with humans.
Based on like the general stature of this person, they're leaning more towards half elf than half orc, but
It's a mix, you know.
it's mixed. Yeah, you get different features.
Got the tall, skinny legs.
Also, if they are royalty and they're cousin of Beth, then is Beth royalty?
Technically, but I'd rather not get involved with that side of things.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, if you go back far enough, there's a lot of things where it's like, yeah, they're nobility, but there's not
Yeah.
like much that this person in particular can do. Like, yeah, they're related to the king, so is every other person.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's far enough away that it really doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
regardless, not her cup of tea.
And that actually might sort of play into this as well, because it wasn't that uncommon to be like, right, we have child of a noble family. What do we do with them? Well, let's send them off to the church for schooling and whatnot. And if we need them for stuff, we can always just sort of pick them up and take them back, I guess.
Also, just in general, like, sending your kids to, like, join the church is always a good idea for royalty. Or, used to be. Because it, one, keeps the church on your side, which is usually a nice benefit. And also, if they're in the church, then there probably won't be a dispute for the land that you're giving to your first son. Your third son can do whatever he wants in the church, but won't get the land.
And if for some reason your first and second sons both kick the bucket, now you have your third son who's just sort of been kept in storage, essentially.
Captains, yes. I mean, that is correct, yes.
I don't think the church would take too kindly to be described as human storage, but
I mean, listen, that's on them, honestly.
I mean, a lot of Catholic and Episcopal churches have reliquaries,
Oh, yeah, true.
which have human remains in them, so they are human storage.
They are human storage. You heard it here first.
Kind of borderline drawing half orc, half elf February here.
It's a good vibe.
February, but D&D.
So whatever the D&D equivalent of February is, month of storms or whatever. Some sort of
I love that at first it was just a question mark.
one of those things. Draw a squiggle.
You made a trash child.
Might have done. Yeah,
But
when you
he's
said
so good.
channel Cluedo, I might have accidentally channeled Honcho, but
Yeah. I can see a little bit of like Reverend Green in there.
I was thinking a bit of Candlestick, you know,
Yeah.
but also Reverend Green. Yeah, now that I think about it.
I mean, let's.
I had
He's
expunged Reverend
also
Green from.
religious.
I've expunged him from my
Supposedly.
mind.
And now we've brought him back.
Now he's back.
Is their name Troy? No, they're not an influencer.
I don't know why they have a mushroom thing.
I
Why not?
mean, again, there's multiple different deities in D&D. It could be an important symbol for the one they are faithful to and are cleric for.
Or it could just be a fun little mushroom necklace.
That too.
They got it from one of their flock, and it's a cherished possession.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least, you know, it's a good look to make it look like it's a cherished possession.
Yeah. They never take it off. Okay, they take it off as soon as they're home.
They never take it off on social occasions.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I'd at least expect him to take off the necklaces when going to bed, because that's a good way to get choked if you're wearing all of those necklaces.
Mm-hmm. Is the martini glass made out of metal?
They're kind of like wood riveted together. I was trying to work out how you would do a martini glass in a
Presumably
fantasy
out
way.
of glass.
I mean, yeah, I know they have glass, but I wanted to make it fantasy, you know. So it's kind of like a, you know, they can't be seen to be, you know, too extravagant. They
Yeah.
are one of the people, after all.
One of the people and drink their martini from a wooden glass. Wooden cup.
That's a very long hand. Long arm.
He has faith that he won't get throttled in his sleep, even though his god would really, really like to.
Oh God! Imagine you're a worshiper of this god, and you've got powers from this god. So it's like obviously they don't hate you, but they are annoyed by you.
This pose made sense at one point. Not entirely sure what happened.
Posing.
I mean, inking. That usually starts to make things go a little bit, wait, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Because at least with the sketch, there's like multiple things that could be happening, and your brain can just sort of fill in the gaps. But then when you explicitly fill in the gaps, it's like, now wait a minute.
I don't know what's going on with shoes. What are fantasy shoes? Usually got stitching on them somewhere.
Some nice
Well, this is someone.
It is. It's Beth's cousin.
It's Beth's cousin. Is it Troy? Can't remember the name.
Well, that's what Miss asked if the name was, so might be.
So
Could
then,
be.
yeah. Yes, then.
Troy, but spelled a fancy elven way. Yeah, there was at least one apostrophe in there. One.
That or the name is longer and has a bunch of apostrophes floating in it, but everyone who can't be bothered for the long name just calls him Troy.
Yeah, Troy for short.
Mm-hmm.
Troy, even Lethier, Mathalum, I don't really know names. What are fantasy names?
Don't worry. Neither does
That.
high fantasy.
It's fantasy. It's a fantastical name, and by fantasy I mean I made it up.
Like I'm pretty sure the only high fantasy writer that's ever spent a whole lot of time thinking about the etymology of names in their book was the high fantasy writer, Tolkien himself. But he was also a language nerd, so.
Yeah. If it was up to Tolkien, it would be all world building and analysis of language. Anyway, that's enough of that. Enough Spanglies. Yep, there we are. Thank you, Jim. And there are at least 3 syllables in that are not spelt, but pronounced.
No.
You know some names have silent letters? This is the opposite. Anyway, there you go. That's a character.
It is. It's Troy.
And it is now time for Ragdoll to draw Jeeves' prompt.
Okay. Let me get one that is some kind of fun.
Yeah, sometimes you hit the button and it's like, huh,
Yeah,
that just is.
that just is.
It is.
Oh, huh.
Huh?
I just realized you can use the num keys to have to control tools and pick tools. You can set the num keys to tools.
Mm,
That's
okay.
pretty cool.
I have one. A discerning halfling bard from a quaint little village on a hill who had their lost legs replaced with enchanted wood.
Ooh. That's kind of fun.
Now the question is, did they take the opportunity with getting the new enchanted legs to make themselves taller.
There's a point. If you got enchanted wood legs, there's the possibility they could just grow and shrink at will.
Mhm.
Yeah, like when I mean, losing your legs not all that great, but with prosthetics you could be whatever height you want now.
Yeah.
So we've got this halfling bard who could potentially be walking around on stilts. And that's a
Do
funny
they-
idea to me, so I'm going to try and draw it.
For the first year or so, they had severe vertigo, but they got used to it. Or acrophobia, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it would be vertigo because it's more dizziness. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, there is like, because I've heard of people who have, like, like, they're missing like their lower legs basically. So like gone from the knee down, and like I know some that, well, not in real life, but I know I've heard that of some that try to get taller that way because it's prosthetics, they can do whatever they want. Um, but it just didn't work out for them, and they immediately went back to like basically the height they would be because
I,
it's apparently so like unusual to get
yeah.
used to
I mean,
because all
I
your
imagine
body
it would be
proportions
awkward to
are
get
out of
used
whack.
to at the very least.
Hmm.
Because, like, whenever everyone starts hitting puberty around, like, 12, 14-ish, and people's legs start growing tall, everyone's awkward and can't figure out what to do with any of their limbs.
Yeah.
I guess
So I
there's also.
imagine suddenly being a different height, it would be like, I don't know what to do with this.
I guess
But
there's
also,
also
it's
the.
funny.
This is a fantasy world. It's fine.
Hmm.
But yeah, I also like, or in that particular instance of like, you've lost legs from the knees down. If you try and make it longer, you're then changing the proportion of upper leg to lower leg. And so your sort of
That too.
knees are in a different spacing to what you'd be used to. That might be a bit weird.
Hmm.
Whereas maybe if you sort of lost the whole leg and replaced the whole thing, maybe that would be you could get the ratio better. I don't know. I don't know if that would sort of mess things up.
I mean, it probably would at least a little bit.
Hmm. Keep thinking of Pinocchio.
Like in general, or
Yeah, just in general.
oh, okay.
We're talking about which one? Disney's one? Guillermo del Toro's one? Disney's other one? That third one that got released at the same time as all those?
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of Pinocchios
Lots of
happened all at
Pinocchio.
once.
Yeah.
Oh, Enchanted Wood. Hang on, do the legs want to be real legs?
Oh no, that's going to be very awkward.
Hmm. Got a kind of wrong trousers situation here.
I love the implication that they're just like, okay, like, roll initiative, we're in a fight, and then the legs just decide to walk off, like, nope.
No,
Hey, hold
there's
on, wait.
there's fire here. I'm out.
I'm out of here.
Oh, him becoming a real boy, becoming a bard, getting into an accident, and getting prosthetics. That would be Pinocchio made of wood, becoming real, losing part of their real body and replacing it with wood. There's something there.
That is really interesting.
That also
That's an
feels
interesting
like
idea.
it would be the plot of a really hamstringed, like we're trying to say something here, but we're not doing
Yeah.
it well.
Hmm.
And in the process we have pissed off like the entire disabled community, even the
Hmm.
ones that don't have missing limbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried about what's happening. Don't worry, we're just kneecapping Pinocchio. It's fine.
Yeah. Or also, speaking of Pinocchio and D&D, in Dimension 20, which is an actual play thing that I watch, their recent season was about like horror and like fairy tales and such. And one of the players was playing Pinocchio.
Mm.
They um played Pinocchio as a warlock, which was fun. Um, and because it's horror and there was lots of body horror going on, this version of Pinocchio had like broken off his own nose and used it as like a wand so people wouldn't be able to tell when he's lying.
Just lies to get more reach on his wand.
um
I thought when you said it was body horror and it's Pinocchio that he'd like tried to become a real person by getting body parts from other people and attaching them.
oh no, not because the players were good people, or at least neutral. Um, they it wasn't a campaign where they're all villains. Um, but yeah, there was some really freaky body horror going on, especially with one of the players who played um like a Sleeping Beauty character. Um, because there was lots of body horror going on with the thorns, where like it's like there was immediately at the start where Brennan, the DM, like started narrating how like in during like Sleeping Beauty's like 100-year long sleep, the thorns would like grow onto her body and eventually into her body and like go
Oh.
in through her mouth and such.
Oh.
I'm like, it was very visceral, and I hated it.
Yeah. Not a fan of that. No.
No, and like the first actions that the player had to do was like
No. No, I know what this sentence is going to end.
was to have to like pull out the thorns from like her mouth
No.
and
No.
nose.
No. No, thank you.
Hey, Cheeve, I think you're setting off Chris's medical everything.
No.
Anyway, that was like the first 10 minutes of the first. It was
You're
just
not
like
encouraging me to listen to this thing.
it is a very like fun and interesting season, and like a season I was like, oh, I wish it would have been longer because I felt like some parts were a little bit like they had to get to the end, even though it was
Oh.
already like a longer season, because I just wanted to know more. But it was still really good. um, but yeah, if you have like any like body horror issues going on, don't watch it. If you like,
Mhm.
there's one episode is filled with spiders, so I wouldn't watch that if you have arachnophobia. There's lots of things going on with like eating and death and like how those two connect. It's very interesting, but also really freaky in a sense.
And I mean, you can't even say, well, it's a tabletop game, so at least they don't show anything because I've listened to Brennan's descriptions of things, and
Yes.
in a certain sense, that's worse.
Yeah, it's very much like Brennan's descriptions. He's a really good DM, and in a horror campaign that can be really terrifying.
Yeah, Kira. It's very interesting, but oops, it triggers all the phobias.
Yes.
Yeah.
They genuinely, which I also really like, is that they have a list of like phobias and possible triggers for people for every episode in the description.
That's
Like
nice.
with timestamps and everything, like, you know, for like general triggers, and it's just like if if this triggers you, don't watch this episode.
Oh,
So yeah, they very much warn for these things from like from like general um from everything, whether it's like screen effects that they're doing with like broken like screen effects, and that like Brennan like visually gets split in half because it's a screen effect, not like gory or anything, but with light. Um, or like sounds, or right, straight up phobias or anything. They list everything for this season.
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Consent sheet. Good idea for these sorts of things, particularly for that campaign, by the sounds of
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Because there's a lot going on. It's like there are a lot of scary moments in it, and it has a lot of like pull, pulls from a lot of phobias and like, but it's the main cast is still comedians, so I wasn't like too scared by any of it. Like things aren't always serious because that's just the way these people are, and I like that. um, they're all comedians, and they make incredibly stupid bits. But yeah, I think a lot of the characters were really like interesting this season, because usually they have like interesting things, but because it's like fairy tale, they like there is already an established character, and then you can just push stuff onto it of like I want to go
Yeah.
from this angle. Um, so yeah, like the Sleeping Beauty character was a lot to do with like, is this how I want my story to be? Do I believe in true love? That kind of thing, because kind of woke up surrounded by thorns after 100 years and there was nothing.
Yeah.
um, and then um, it was a Puss in Boots character who was very also like pulling from like kind of trickster tropes and like a little bit of like fable-ish things. Um, so that was fun. And um
Also, one of the bits I've seen is there's another character who's more or less the same size as our Puss in Boots character, but it's just kind of like, why are you two climbing on top of each other?
uh, I don't remember that bit, but honestly, I've watched this over the course of a bunch of weeks, so wouldn't always know.
Yeah, I don't remember what the context of it was, but I think it was like trying to go up and see a mirror, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll just climb on top of you, and it's like you're the same size as him.
Yeah, I think it might have been with Pinocchio, because I believe that they are like the same like height, like uh gameplay wise. um because Pinocchio is a child. um Also, one of the more interesting characters I found this season was one of the characters played the prince from like the fairy tale The Prince and uh like the Frog Prince, and was like
Hmm.
and his backstory was essentially like okay, been through the entire Frog Prince. We've gotten to our happily ever after. Now he's having trouble with his wife because, he's been a frog for 10 years. I want to catch up on life, and she is dealing with, actual shit in Rilligan country. Um, so they aren't like really compatible that way. So, you know, love is kind of who knows where it's at. So he's turning back into a frog,
On
which
the
I
simple
found
life
really
again.
interesting.
Sorry, I got slightly distracted. After we're talking about it containing spiders. It suddenly occurred to me: is there a website you can go to where you can just look up a game and see if it has spiders in it? I can't
Um,
find it, but that would be a really good idea.
I mean, I think there's a general site for like anything that has like, triggers that has like, oh, uh, I want to know like
Does
if
the dog
this,
die? Oh,
yeah. I believe Does the Dog Die also have like, other triggers going on and
oh
not
yeah, yeah.
just Does the Dog Die? So I presume it
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
also has
I
spider stuff.
There are
I think
spiders.
it
That is a
started
tag on
out
there.
with like, d- as the name implies, is there an animal that dies? And then it just kind of went, hey, we can extend this out.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. The Magnus
Yeah.
Archives. Spiders are a recurring element of many episodes. From what I've heard, that sounds about right.
Yep.
So cool, this thing does exist. Hooray!
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, Dimension 20's horror season is not something I would generally like recommend first to people
Hmm.
if they want to get into Dimension 20 because it is a lot. um unless they're really into horror and fairy tales, then I'd be like, yeah, go for it. If you're fine with these things. But yeah, not wouldn't be my first entry point. Yeah, Never After. It's really good.
Neat.
I mean, I like a lot of the Dimension 20 stuff. Um, and apparently Matt Mercer from uh Critical Role is DMing next season, which is for A Crown of Candy, which I didn't watch the first time. So I should probably get on that because I do
That
want to watch
should
that.
be interesting.
Yeah, it's like one of them more like gritty like campaigns, like they're more serious gritty campaigns, even though it's set in like a candy land where everyone and everything is candy.
I mean, that's ripe for all sorts of horror tropes, so.
Yeah.
It's not
Insert.
really horror, but I believe it's more like uh what's the one thing that people compare it to? Oh, I forgot the name of the thing. Um what's the thing written by George R. R. Martin? Uh
Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones, yeah.
The Songs of the Ices and Fires.
Yes. So more like like gritty, serious fantasy without like obvious sex stuff and whatever, but
No
like
candy sex.
more no. I mean maybe, I don't know. I haven't watched the first season. um but yeah, I am curious. Um yeah. Also,
Also,
Court of Flame Flowers is very good. I really like that season. Sorry.
Nice.
Okay.
I don't think we've
Well,
really
here's-
properly discussed how unsettling this picture is.
Yeah, it is. It is also slightly body horror.
I
Like, the face
mean,
is very whimsical and cute, but then
Yeah.
you get down and it's like, oh. Yeah,
he's just turning his prosthetics into stilts. Fine.
it is. Yep, it's
Yep.
fine.
They're not actually like it's not actually part of his body. It's just that he's got shorts on. So you
Yeah.
can't see where it goes from, oh, this is just sitting against my legs instead of
Mm-hmm.
being part of my entire body. Also, it's all drawn in red, which always makes my drawings look at least mildly unsettling.
Just a slight bit.
It's an aesthetic choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
There we
this
go.
is.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of the time they just look like regular legs, but then every so often it's like, right, cool,
I
gotta
need
get
to
something from the
tall.
top shelf.
And it just grows into stilts. Ah. Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to think of a Pinocchio leg pun, but all I can think of is that like another word for legs is pins. The Pinocchio. It doesn't. That's just the same word, isn't it?
You're just putting emphasis on the pin, and I don't know why.
Pinocchio. Pins legs.
But yeah, I really like this drawing.
Yeah. He's good. Also, good hat.
Yeah,
Because
good
drawing
hat.
those
Yeah,
hats is a pain.
Yep.
Sort of surprised I managed to do it that well at that angle.
Yeah, it works.
And back to Jeeb, who
Back
now
to me.
has revenge from Ragdoll.
Yeah.
I.e., Ragdoll gives you a quote in exchange for you giving them a quote.
Yes. So we've got a surly tiefling wizard from the Endless Wastes who is cursed to speak in sentences of exactly 10 words.
Very specific cards.
So,
I like it.
so if they get to 10, do they just suddenly stop? Or does something bad happen if they go over? Does their voice just cut out? If they get to the end of the sentence, they've only done 8 words, do they just have to add 2 random words at the end that make no sense? I don't know. I want to know how this curse works.
I mean, at the very least, it's a silly curse. Also, I'm not. Because, like, you sit there and think, oh, 10 words, that's not a lot of words, but most sentences, unless you're just prone to run on sentences, don't use that many words in them.
I am prone to run on sentences. At least when writing, anyway. Should all only speak in sentences of 10 words until this drawing is done. Well, I just read that out loud, and that's more than 10 words, so. Because I'm just thinking, if this. You can see them counting. If the curse is that bad things will happen if they don't, I imagine they're going to be quite specific about how they keep track of these things. Because you have a lot of paper on them to write things out.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of editing before you start speaking. This might be why they're so surly, because they're very annoyed at having to plot out their entire half of the conversation while the conversation is happening. And Lewis is being silly in the Discord.
Yeah, Lewis is actually managing to do it.
I mean, at least it's 10 words exactly, and then you can count on your 10 fingers instead of like
Yeah.
20 words exactly. Then it's like, cool, now I gotta double up.
What if at some point they lose a finger?
That will make it harder to keep track of, yes.
And what if the wording of the curse was vague enough that it didn't specify 10, it specified counting on your fingers in a kind of abstract reference of like, oh, it's 10, but we're going to say it in this fancy way. Then they lose a finger. It's like, oh crap, is it 9 now? I don't know. We don't want to test. Just don't say anything.
Let's just go to 8, I guess.
Yeah, curses have a lot of rules lawyering involved. Although that does bring up the question: if the curse specifically is talking about, you can say the same number of words as you have fingers. Do thumbs count as fingers?
Yeah. And then I do as many as you can count on your fingers. It's like using what counting system? If we do binary, we're screwed. Yeah.
Because if you use binary on your fingers,
that's a run-on sentence.
That's a lot of words you can use by using your fingers to indicate binary digits.
What is that? 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512? That's a long sentence. Or maybe 500. No, hang on. 1, 0, 1. Get 2 with that. No, it's not 512. It would be 1,023.
I mean, maybe that's the, like, what's the word for it? Like, escape they find.
Oh, yeah, they find,
they
cheats.
they find other ways of counting on their fingers. You've also got, you've got some instances where people will count the knuckles instead.
Yeah. There's I think it was the Babylonians. Their way of counting was they ignored the thumb completely and they just counted the 3 sections of the fingers. So on each hand you would have 12. They had a base 12 or 60 counting system, one of the two.
They had 60.
60, yeah. And then I think you keep track on the other hand of how many hands you've gone through, as it were. So you can get a lot out of that. Basically, there are so many different ways of counting on fingers that this feels like, a demon was trying to be fancy, and this is how they learned how to be very specific with their curses.
I mean, it's also, very unfortunately, they, cursed a wizard, who are the most likely to be, very rules library.
Yeah, exactly.
Worse, a tiefling wizard.
Yeah.
So they've got the rules lawyering from both ends.
Is it now I want to draw this demon who did this curse. Just being really frustrated.
Regretting it.
It's like, it was their first curse, first day on the job.
They really tried, okay? They want you to know that they tried and they failed.
So he just ended up with 2 obsessive characters, one obsessing over counting, the other one obsessing over rules. Like, God, all my curses have to be watertight from now on.
Their dude is okay, I guess I'm gonna have to, make my contracts a mile long now, thanks.
Yeah.
You leave holes, people will find the holes.
Thing is, that's always the things with these stories about pacts and curses and stuff like that. It's all about the loopholes. One way or the other, either the person setting them or the person trying to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the loophole.
Yeah.
Fed up of packing.
Macbeth.
Oh, yeah.
No man of a woman born, and it's a C-section.
I did actually think so. After our stream last Tuesday of Portal,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I actually explained in the stream why we were playing Portal 2 specifically, which is that it came out on the 18th of April. As did I, which is a weird way of phrasing that.
It's a little bit.
On Steam, it says the 19th. And I was kind of confused by this, so I decided to look into it. Turns out it had an official release date of the 19th, but it actually came out on the 18th because they ran this sort of puzzle competition thing, and if you managed to solve the puzzles, or if the community managed to solve the puzzles in time before the game got released, then it would be released early. So it actually got released earlier than its official scheduled release, only by like 12 hours or something. But that officially in, I think, PDT, Pacific Daylight Time? I don't know what that stands for. It was officially the 18th of April. So it actually got released through unorthodox means, which makes me feel even more of a kindred spirit with Portal 2, because I was also released early through unorthodox means, Macbeth style.
I like the wording of
So, yeah.
released.
I
As if it's like,
was
yes, your mother was
released like
containing you.
Macbeth.
So yeah, me and Portal 2, we got a lot in common. I don't think there was a competition for me though. So
I mean, maybe there was. Ask your
not,
parents.
not even Unleashed.
See, I was the opposite. I was like 3 weeks later than expected.
Oh, you laid in.
And my brother was also gunning to be 3 weeks later than expected, but my mother was like, "I'm not doing this again. Induce the labor."
I hate it when people wake you up early. Oh, Kira was also late.
I mean, to a
was
certain extent,
2
there's
weeks
like
early.
no scheduling babies.
Yeah. It's just
But
whatever
when
biology
you were
does.
planning on like the beginning of the month, and now we're a week away from the end of the month, it's like cool. I can completely understand wanting to just do an eviction at that point.
Was I evicted by being pulled out the window? What is this analogy?
I mean, they cut a hole in the wall and pulled you out.
Yeah. They made a window. That's a classic joke, isn't it? I was born by cesarean section, which is why when I enter a room, I leave through a window. Classic joke. Also, look at this character. Thank you, miss. Just pumping out faces like this. Absurd.
And horns, too.
And horns, the actual make physical sense. They line up. They don't look asymmetrical.
Although, granted, since it's a tiefling, you probably could have gotten away with asymmetrical horns.
Oh yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But also, they're a wizard, so it's not like everything is just chaos and entropy.
There's something about the face, and it might be the big eyes and the slight tuft of hair at the front, that makes me think of Pal. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I
don't look anything like Pal, obviously, but just something.
No, just something about it is like vaguely reminiscent of Pal.
Yeah. I haven't drawn Pal for ages. I did think the other day, actually, of trying to find ways of shoehorning characters into this October Noir thing I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, ooh, Pal and Beth. They could be in it. I don't know what they would be, but like hired hands or something. But
outfits.
Or Pal could just be someone annoyingly playing instruments on the street corner, dancing around a hat.
And Flamio, yes, of course.
Only tieflings I know are misses, and they are all sexy, so.
Hey, miss, you're an influence. Pal could help Mal with the calendar. Oh god, I've got to do this bloody April, haven't I? Oh, time. Where did you go?
Miss, what do tieflings wear?
Little.
Yeah.
Whatever they want.
Probably. Yeah.
Nothing that involves having to pull it over your head to put it on.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's not making it through intact.
Let's start with a corset and go from there.
Oh,
Good
I'm
start.
actually now reminded in in the Dragon Age series, there is a race of characters that not all of them have horns, but the majority of them do, and there's like no real set style of what the horns should look like. They're called Qunari. Um, Actually, I think there's technically a different word for their race, but the majority of them identify as Qunari, which is technically a religion, but it's an ethno-religion. Anyway, um, yeah, and one of the main characters in one of the games is a Qunari, and he just doesn't wear shirts because his nickname, which sort of became his name, is the Iron Bull because of the shape of his horns,
Yeah.
which very much look like longhorn steer. So there's no way you're getting a shirt over that.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess it depends on the fantasy world. They might not have button-ups, but
I don't know if you would fit him into a button up either because he is also very broad. You would have to have a very large shirt to get onto this man. Like,
fair
even
enough.
without the horns being in the way.
I see now I'm just thinking of Tori. Similar problem. Tori flexes those buttons, they're popping.
Good thing he doesn't flex it that often.
I mean,
Mm.
miss, if you're asking about the Qunari, a lot of them shave their heads. And the ones that don't usually keep really short hair and or cornrows.
How do they sleep? Face down.
I mean, we know how the Iron Bull sleeps. He sleeps straight on his back.
Mm.
And how we know this, I will leave that to who you find out when you play whenever you see someone play the game.
Am I the only person who, whenever they have a nightmare, is because they've been sleeping on their back?
I don't know. Usually, when I have a nightmare, that's not what I'm concerned with. So
Every time I wake up from a nightmare, I'm on my back, and I usually sleep on my side. Weird.
uh,
Trying to find a good picture of Bull that's not just zoomed in on his face.
Horns go sideways. I've lost track of who we're talking about. This character, the Ragdoll's character, Tori. I think between us, we have horns pointing in all directions. So
pretty much, yeah.
you flip around all night. Yeah.
Mm.
I did consider doing that as a thing with the outliers of like how do they sleep, the different positions that they sleep in. And Rufus would be all sort of like huddled up. Mal and M would just be splayed around all over the place. And it was going to be done sort of like top down on the bed, so you could sort of see it from above. And then you get to Stoic, and you have the top down view of the bed, but Stoic's just sitting in the chair next to it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So you just see like the top of his head. Oh yeah, that's tricky to sleep. Yeah. It's got some armor, you know. I was expecting like
Yeah, he wears armor, but not wearing a shirt.
fair enough.
Although you can, in that game, be a Qunari as your main character, and you are sometimes wearing a doublet, so some tailor there figured out a way of getting that onto your body. Yeah,
I guess if
Ironbow's
the
pretty neat.
I guess if it's like the other characters where the horns are swept back, you could probably pull it over that. So it'd be a bit tricky, but manageable. Whereas the big old side horns. I mean, I'll be honest, we're also going kind of pally with this outfit as well.
A little bit.
A little bit. I reckon they'd be friends.
Oh, you got little frills going on there.
And when I say
For the
pally,
shirt.
I mean the your pal.
My pal.
Yeah. Well, I only ever drew pal like wearing shorts and with a big coat.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently 5 times as many pictures of pal were drawn by you.
Listen, it happens. Don't really
So
have
pal is now yours.
wizard vibes, but just trust they're a wizard, I guess.
Do you want me to show my cleric again?
Yeah. Anyway, they're counting the words.
Yeah. Good for them. I like them. They seem nice. I mean, I don't know if they're nice. They seem nice.
They're nice in 10 words or less. They're also mean in 10.
They're nice in precisely 10 words.
Oh, right, in 10 words.
Not or
Yeah.
less, exactly.
Exactly 10.
Decluttering a lot of loose papers and found a drawing made of pal dooting. Yay!
Aw.
Oh, good old pal. Doing a doot
Good
and a
old pal.
smooch.
Anyway.
Anyway, I guess I need a prompt from Chib.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright.
Uh,
Uh,
ah,
okay.
ah.
A boisterous dwarf monk from the Rat Catchers Guild who has never had their hair cut.
So cousin it.
So are the rats getting stuck in the hair then?
I guess so. We're kind of going sort of Rat King, but with hair.
It was that one still frame of the bad recorded version of Silent Night. Perfect.
What's the D&D monk situation?
They punch.
Yeah, they're hand-to-hand fighters.
I'd ascertain that. Is there any did they wear robes? Do they I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's like vaguely like very vaguely fantasy Asian inspired, I guess. Usually, if you want like a
Inspired
class,
by Fantasy Asia.
yeah, your classic fantasy Asia.
Oh, hang on.
Like I don't know how else to describe it.
It's not on screen, unfortunately, but I've just noticed if you make a selection, the bottom left corner of the screen, there's a little selection thing where you click that and it just deselects. So if you have your one tiny pixel selected, it'll be down there, it'll tell you have a selection. You can click off it.
Nice.
That's nice. Ooh, like I just did. Unfortunately, because it's right
Um,
on the edge of the screen, my tablet doesn't like it. But
yeah. I think it's because it's like, inspired by like the idea of monks, Asian monks doing like, you know, fighting. Not really fighting, but like martial arts. So it kind of has that inspiration. So classic D&D monks tend to be like vaguely Asian inspired.
Yeah, sort of everybody was kung fu fighting type thing.
Yeah.
you're right. Oop, selection. I need to recalibrate my display. It's not as precise as it should be.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking of like which Dimension 20 like campaign I would recommend to you specifically. And I
Uh-huh.
think I landed on one of the um like shorter side quest ones where there's a different DM and it's generally shorter. Um where it's like your classic like vampire horror kind of, but it's horror based on like very over the top like uh 80s horror movies.
Nice.
um so it's a lot of silly nonsense going on with very dramatic vampires and such. uh I think that's the one I would recommend to you just based on your interests.
I don't know if that says more about me or what you think of me or.
I think you're silly and old.
I mean, I can't argue.
I mean, what could have given you that idea beyond, you know, silly old
Everything.
man that's being drawn here?
um yeah. And it's been a while since I watched it, so I don't remember too much of it. Um, but there is like, your classic like crazy scientist uh trope with questionable
Science.
morals. Um, who I think wields a flamethrower because science.
I think we're going beyond questionable morals at that point.
Yeah. There is like um very much over the top uh vampire lady actress. Um I mean, Dracula is in the campaign. He's not a player character, but he is the main focal point of the campaign. There is a player character who is, quote unquote, the son of Dracula, who is like the first vampire Dracula ever created, and they kind of play with like, when was he created? Good lord, who knows? He kind of just says things, and at one point I believe he like says something along the lines of, "I remember when fire was invented." And everyone just kind of looks at him like, yeah. Okay, when were you born? When were you turned vampire? So it just kind of it becomes more and more ridiculous. Um,
I mean, it can't be as ridiculous as the vampire lore in Vampire the Masquerade.
I don't know about that.
So, in Vampire the Masquerade, vampires, the vampiric curse is the result of the Cain and Abel story
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible,
Sure.
where basically it's like Cain kills Abel, God curses him to be a vampire. And that's the origin
Okay.
of vampirism in the Vampire the Masquerade.
I mean,
I always thought it was something to do with
yeah.
Judas. Because that's why the silver was the thing.
I, I mean, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but also I can see it. Like I can see where it came from because I am not religious, so I don't know perfectly, but if I remember correctly, it's that, you know, historically, biblically, God curses Cain to like be immortal and wander the earth forever. So I can see where that comes from. Like, yeah, why not
Oh, yeah.
turn him into a vampire?
Because it seems disadvantageous to whatever God's plan was.
I mean, that's all of God's plans. No offense.
We're getting very much into the ineffable.
Yeah.
It's ineffable.
Mm, I mean, like, just in general, it seems like contrary to God's plans to, like, curse the murderer to, like, walk the earth forever. Like, okay, what's that gonna do?
It's going to teach him a lesson that you can gain immortality by killing people.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, is it gonna make him? Because, classically, the curse of, like, immortality is that you'll outlive all your loved ones.
Yeah.
But he killed his brother, so I don't know what this is supposed to teach him. But maybe I'm not Christian enough for that, you know?
I mean, I'm sure if you asked a bunch of Christian theologians, you would get a very long discussion
Oh,
slash argument between them as to what the heck was going on.
for sure.
Considering we don't, there's arguments over how the murder happened.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, I know there's at least one. So with the plagues of Egypt, apparently with how it's written in the original Hebrew and with some strange little ticks of just grammar rules, there's apparently fairly widely had discussion of, okay, is the Curse of Frogs multiple frogs or is it one large frog?
I know my preference.
I've seen a Tumblr post about that recently, actually, where they were like, yeah, we in the Jewish community have had this discussion, but I like to propose, it's not between, it doesn't have to be multiple frogs or one big frog. It could also just be one normal sized frog.
It's a beautiful day in Pharaoh's Egypt and you are a horrible
Yeah,
frog.
that was like that was the ending of that post. Was just like, yep, untitled frog game.
Yes. Play Havoc as biblical frog.
You are a biblical frog and you're in Egypt. What are you gonna do?
Biblically accurate frog.
Biblically accurate frog.
So with this guy, how this guy is walking, it looks like he just sort of walks around and the mice get caught behind him in his hair.
Yeah. Basically.
He's like a street sweep, except his hair's the thing sweeping it.
Street sweep, but it's hair and also it's all rats. um the prompt was a boisterous dwarf monk from the Rat Catchers Guild who has never had their hair cut. Promise.
Yeah. Also capture the occasional shopping trolley.
Also, we've avoided drawing any eyes or mouth altogether by just having so much hair.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense, you know?
If there's one thing you can take away with my characters is that there's always a way to avoid drawing a face. This is M's dad.
M's dad is a dwarf?
Yeah, it's
Isn't
ironic.
M
Really.
like 7 feet tall?
I beat Miss to it.
M gets her height from the other side of the family.
Yeah. Other side of the family is extra tall.
No, they're also short. It's really weird.
Oh. Weird,
Maybe it
like,
skipped a
genetic
generation.
skip. Yeah. The dwarf and the halfling came together and made one very tall child.
It's like with that one plant that they tried to make more violet and instead went, oh no, can't do that, and then it went white instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what sort of plant it was, but basically biologists were sort of screwing around and going, right, well, we know what the gene is for this purple blue color in this flower. What happens if we introduce more copies of this gene into the plant? Because, it's a plant. They're fairly simple. We got nothing else better to do. We might make an interesting flower. But apparently the flower took that as like it had an immune response reaction of some sort, and instead of making more pigment, it just made no pigment.
Yeah.
Because
Miss
plants
wants
are
and that
weird.
meet Mel. Dadum.
Hopefully, if they come visit Mal, they clear out the rats from their hair before visiting.
Mal would not be impressed. Well, has standards, you know.
I'm now imagining that he's like, okay, I'm gonna visit my daughter's friend. Can't get rats in my hair, so it just makes like the largest bun right on top of his head. Just like almost the same size of him. Size as him. And you know there's a rat in that bun. At least one, yeah. It's made its home there.
I mean,
Yeah.
his hair is a rat's nest.
There, we got it. Thank you, Ragdoll. He absolutely can and will pick you up, hug you, and spin you around. Oh, absolutely. Who do you think M got it from? That's a genetic trait, right?
Thing is, like, I kind of want to join in with this, but there's just a voice in the back of my mind going, I can't actually join in with this because I do know M's backstory and we're having fun. So,
I mean, you can.
no, I prefer a boisterous, loving dad.
I mean, even if M does have
Dad.
another dad, this could also be dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
M would happily be adopted by this dad.
M can
Like, if
have
you don't
more
like,
parents. Just
it's
all of them.
it's like that thing of like, if you have a bad relationship with your parents, I'm your dad now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this fits.
This guy walked around with a shirt that says dad hugs, and M has never like, considered making a different decision. Just immediately, here's a hug. You're my dad now.
I mean, but you wouldn't be able to see what his shirt says. So it'd have to be like written on the sleeves or something.
Yeah. Styled M's hair and she never looked back. Yeah. She never looked anywhere.
Put a little rat in it.
Okay, canonically, anytime I draw M, there is some sort of small mammal in the hair. Yeah, this is M's dad.
This is M's dad.
Hardworking rat catcher. Good at his job, good at hugs.
Now has a
Good.
child.
Has the most impressive man bun. Gotta draw them together for Father's Day. Yeah. Or what I'll probably do is I'll probably forget that I drew this tomorrow morning.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, you do save the drawings, and
I do.
I'm sure at least one of us will remember.
Maybe I should do that. Maybe the next prompt I do on morning streams should be randomly picking one of these drawings and doing them nicely. You'll not allow me
That
to
is
forget.
something you can add to the list, yeah.
It's something I could add to the list.
Add it to your random generator.
Add it. I will. M's dad, and I'll be very confused.
I think it was meant more adding, take one of these prompt drawings and redo it
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah.
It was
To
more
your
of like,
list.
do a stream drawing.
Yeah. Ragdoll, you have a prompt from me, right?
Yes.
You have a considerate elf druid from the long abandoned mines who studied interior dungeon design.
I I love the implication that they're in the long abandoned mines and they're just sitting there on a rock like, you know what would make a great dungeon? Just looking around the space like, what if we took a minecart?
It's not a phase, Mom. I'm going to be a dungeon influencer.
They know one kind of dungeon, and it's a long abandoned mine.
I love what you've done with the space, but hear me out.
Consider
Minecarts.
adding carts and maybe coal. I know it's controversial.
I know. I personally think just a vein of coal running up the wall, it just helps divide the room up.
I mean, like, if you want to be fancy, you could just, like, you could do iron or gold, but
Yeah.
really?
But on this kind of budget, we're probably thinking coal.
Yeah. And, you know, coal powers itself, you know?
Exactly. Long cold winter's night, you've got coal right there. Win-win. And actually, do you know what? I'll throw in a couple of embedded pickaxes in the wall. That way you can source your own coal and you can use them as a coat rack.
Also, like, the minecart is just, you know, for the adventurers that are trying to come in, they can do some really fun stuff with that. It's really, like, you know, it gets their minds going, brings them in the right headspace.
Also, you could have a really nifty area of your dungeon where it's a rail shooter.
Yes.
And if you throw in a few levers, if you've got a lot of diverging paths, you know, a bit of choice for the adventurers.
Mhm.
Exciting, adds to the sense of adventure. They'll give you great reviews.
I mean, if you really want to be fancy, you could, like, make your carts, like, go up in the air and, like, have, like, a kind of roller coaster effect going on. That will cost extra, though.
Oh yeah, minecart technology has come on it leaps and bounds. We can do that sort of thing much safer than we used to.
Waiting for server response. Okay. Just quick question.
Ooh.
Do you guys see a minecart on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Because I'm getting a waiting for server response message.
What we do not
So
see
I'm
is
gonna just
you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
refresh the page real quick, see if that clears things up. I just wanted to
You're
make sure
back.
that something was still there. Okay.
Nope.
Minecart is
Nope.
still there, and now I can affect it again. Yay!
Hooray! It's really important that you affect the minecart. I know a lot of people, they have minecarts as just static design choices. No. It's all about the dynamics.
Mhm. You really want the airflow to be nice as well. Don't want anyone to choke in your mine. That's a
No.
really, like, it's a really sad way to go, and just, you know, not sad as in, you know, actually, like, grieving for them, but, like, sad as in, like, why did you make such a poor choice in dungeon design?
Accidental unconsciousness? That's not what we're aiming for. No.
No, if you do want, like, your adventurers to go unconscious, get a fun monster in there that can, like, suck the air out of them or something. I don't know. There's
Ooh,
all
yeah.
sorts of fun stuff on the market out there.
We can put in some automatic doors that can close up and seal the air in.
Oh
Again,
yeah,
make it
put some, like,
deliberate.
hidden walls in there. They're really in the season this year.
We have ones that work on a mechanism or ones that work via magic illusion. They're more expensive, I know, but they do fit in better.
Mhm. Honestly, you want to pay for the magic because you almost can't see it, but then, like, hear me out, one of the adventurers leans against it and they fall backwards into a pit of spikes.
I know, not likely to happen, but if we arrange everything in the room that's pointing in that direction, they will naturally flow there. There's a lot we can do to influence the perspective of the people passing through your dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Such a silly concept.
I mean, I think so far every single one of our drawings has been a silly concept.
Yeah.
true.
You better believe I've been refreshing until I get a good silly concept.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like even our one where it's like, oh, it's the wizard who has to deal with a serious issue. It's like, no, they're going to rules lawyer their way out of this.
It's our job to take
It's
these
our
prompts and
job.
make them silly. Also, how does a druid from a mine work?
I mean,
Moss?
I mean, druids are just about being connected to nature. Rocks are nature too.
Okay,
and
okay.
th- th- there are things that live in caves.
True.
Yeah.
They're a bat druid.
They can transform into bats. Or like creepy little cave crawlers.
Or fish that don't have eyes.
You know, you better believe they've looked at this mine from all angles, from all animal visions, just to figure out the perfect spot for traps.
Yeah. That's part of why they become so highly acclaimed. They cover all angles, literally.
Yeah, literally. You want to make sure that your like dungeon also looks good from underwater, just so that people, when they eventually fall into the water and drown, they at least have something nice to look at.
Gotta make those last visions very important, very impactful. If they look up and just see a drab ceiling,
Yeah, that's if they just see gray, all gray, you know. I mean, they might not have dark vision, but honestly, that's on them. You shouldn't go into a mine without dark vision or a light source.
hey, Christy, you made it. How are you feeling? What game we're talking about? Our game, where we design dungeons on behalf of evil
uh,
wizards.
yeah.
I mean, Dungeon Keeper is a thing, but it's more of a tower defense thing. But you know what? I would maybe play a Dungeon Keeper game where you're an interior designer.
Yeah.
And then there's also a supervillain version, like variant on it, same type of thing though. But again, it's more of
Yeah.
a tower defense type thing. But also, if we just do Happy Home Academy, but it's Dungeon Keeper.
I reckon that would sell. New plan.
You know.
Screw Chaos Chess. I'm gonna.
Dungeon
Like,
interior design simulator.
yeah. It could kick off. It could be the next Power Wash simulator. You never know.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, people do like their decoration and Sims type things. There's
Hmm.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's a Tavern Keeper, I think is what it's called, where you're basically running a tavern and you get to decorate it. Now, granted, you are actually running the tavern, so it's like, all right, we got to make sure there's like enough bathrooms and seats and stuff. But
I like the idea that you design this dungeon and you can send it to your friends to go through, but
Yeah.
ultimately it's all about the aesthetic.
Hmm. Nobody said the dungeon had to work. They only specified that it had to look pretty. That's not on me.
Yes.
That's on the contract.
Oh, I'm not part of the engineering team.
No. I mean, that is like the thing of like they're an interior designer. They're not the one that makes sure everything can work.
Yeah. I put
they're
in
not
the
here to make
design.
sure it's OSHA compliant
Yeah.
Hmm.
or
that's
whatever variant
that's
of
the
OSHA.
sequel. is Dungeon Health and Safety.
I love the idea of like a dungeon like OSHA employee who's just there to like, yeah, we want the dungeon to be safe. Yeah, sure, for its employees, not for the adventurers. The adventurers can, do whatever, but want
As
to
soon as
make sure
as soon
that
as the
the
staff door
goblin.
opens, as soon as the staff door opens, railings pop up around the spike pits. It's
Hmm.
all automatic. Want to be a vampire messing around in your castle? There's 48 dungeons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there'll be DLC. There's one for vampires and one for wizards. And be like The Sims.
Yeah.
Waiting for server
Mm.
response again. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, you're still drawing. I can see it. A little spammy chat and you can do your eyes yelling at you. Oh no! Hope you feel better soon, Christy. It's nice to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to hear from you.
Good luck
Not
getting
really
rid of
sure
the
what I should
annoyances.
put on this person to make them druidy.
Um,
Yeah,
my
lean into
first thought
the.
was a squirrel, and I don't know what that says about me or my thoughts on druids.
I mean, yeah. There's again my introduction to these things. Final Fantasy V. There was the Beastmaster class, and they had the Animals command, which summoned animals from the environment to attack the enemies, and it was almost always squirrels. Just a horde of squirrels running through the enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christy. Have a good rest. Also, it's started raining incredibly hard here.
Mm,
Hopefully, you can't hear that.
no, we can't at least.
I can.
How dare you?
I don't have a choice.
Have you tried
'Cause-
not hearing it?
yeah, I'm wearing headphones, so yeah.
Fair enough.
I could put on my better headphones, but then I can't hear myself talk, and that's weird.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they've got a little.
Is that a bat friend?
Yes.
Bat
Oh, so
friend!
tiny.
Tiny bat friend!
Little bat sitting on shoulder. It's their familiar.
Very cute.
Just sort of go with.
Now this is a minecart.
You see this
Sort of-
minecart?
This is a deluxe minecart.
Yeah. It will keep at the same speed. It's magically enhanced that way, so it will keep at the same speed from beginning to end. So you can go up and down and around and have a little loop-de-loop in there. It's real fun.
If it turns a tight corner, it can go up on 2 wheels, but it's always safe. It'll never tip over, unless you want it to.
Yeah, I mean, you can like install it in a way that like it will tip over unless the adventurers like lean the other way as like a fun little action piece.
It has
But
weight
really, you
sensors in the
should take
bottom.
that up with our engineers.
Again, OSHA will be checking this once you're done.
I like the idea that they're working with like an artificer or something to.
Artificer whose name is OSHA.
I also like the idea of the person who's like, constructing all these rides and magically enhancing this. This is going to be great. You've got this team. You've got this team working on I'm sort of imagining like there was a spate in the early 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s of home renovation shows in Britain. I don't know if it traveled abroad, things like changing rooms and stuff like that. And they always had the team, right? They always had like the builder and the interior designer and the plumber and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm just imagining that, but in this dungeon fantasy world,
Yeah.
just these people who are really enthusiastic about their job and how they can do it,
It's a
make it all
D&D
work.
party, but the party has abandoned the adventuring, like,
Yeah.
for
They did an
this.
adventure. They did an adventure in a dungeon, and it was so crap. They're like, no, we need to improve this.
We can do this better.
Yeah, we can do a better job than this. That's a good idea.
I mean, we did have some home renovation-y type shows. And I blame them for the sort of push to the like, oh, we've got like the open concept, open floor plan, and it's like there's a reason why you don't do that. Open floor plans kind of suck.
I'm gonna open it up and get a lot of space. Heard that from an artist on YouTube playing a board game of that. Changing rooms board game. What? That can't exist, can
Play
it?
that.
There's a card game, apparently. It has no information on Board Game Geek. No one knows this exists.
Uh,
Changing Rooms, the card game board game.
yeah, I'm like getting anything for it when I Google it. On Google Images, I only get a dressing room game, which looks like little cards.
Oh no.
And a Home Alone board game.
I have this. Changing Rooms interior designer CD-ROM. That is
What?
so very 90s.
Oh,
Oh boy.
wonderful.
Yeah, that's very 90s.
Very 90s. Oh, I can't save the picture annoyingly. Apparently it's out of stock.
I love how now it looks like he's looking at this little bat, like, we can sell this.
Oh, yeah, they're upcyclers. Like, we can renovate this. Flip a profit, it'd be amazing.
Look at this awful abandoned mine. We can do this.
We could turn this into an amazing dungeon.
Yeah. Now imagine it's because the description says it's from, like, this character is from an abandoned mine, so they party went through a bad dungeon, they all said, "We can do better," and this character went, "I know just the place to start this. I know an amazing abandoned mine that absolutely sucks."
And we'll add a bunch of interior design to it. Okay, well, I have no idea what to do as far as flow stuff are concerned, because most of the like typical druidy concepts I can think of just wouldn't work well for someone whose
Mhm.
nature connections are cave dwellers.
Wouldn't work.
I mean, I'm like with these lines, I'm slightly imagining him to just be wearing like a green polo shirt.
God, just the most obnoxious clothes.
It has like that company logo on the back.
The
The company logo looks awful because for all they don't have a graphic designer.
Or at the very least, don't have a very good printer.
I can't shake the name Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen out of my head. Which only makes sense if you know who
What?
Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen is.
Okay.
Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. He was the interior designer for changing rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just stuck Eowyn in Bowen to make Beowyn.
I mean, it
Also-
sounds like an elfy name, honestly.
Also, Llewellyn is a Welsh name, and elves are Welsh. We know this.
Yeah, elves are Welsh. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I honestly thought
Miss,
you
you
had
an elf.
just like pulled an elf name out of nowhere for some
No.
reason. I was like, what?
No, it was a bad pun. I don't pull
Good,
out
that's
interesting
more on
ideas. I
your
pull out
list.
bad puns.
That makes more sense, yeah.
I mean, the two are not mutually exclusive.
They are often exclusive. Both never. But yeah, I like this idea. This is a fun idea, and this is a fun friend with their little bat.
Yeah.
I like the idea
I
that
love-
they've got their team of renovators, but they just spend all their time talking to the bat.
Yeah.
It's like, we're right here.
Right here. No, you don't get it.
The bat
You
has more interesting
familiar? No.
conversations.
Yeah. Squeak.
They have more insight into the space.
Also, they can
Creative ideas.
Also, they can echolocate, so they can literally have more insight into the space.
Yeah. Yeah, I like them.
They're like very condescending in a very specific way.
You know, interior designer.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, that's that. Should we turn everything on?
Yeah, sure.
Classic styley.
Classic styley.
Classic styley.
With a whole bunch of things in the middle because the majority of us just plop the person front and center.
I mean, it is character design, so we're not Julia here, who's gonna draw a whole scene first.
How about challenge for next week? We do our character design, but we need to try and do it in such a way that when we turn our layers on, none of them are touching each other.
Oh my god.
We can't see what people have drawn before. So we're gonna have people like hanging in corners and
That'd be such an awful challenge, but also I kind of love it. Because I'm just, imagining, like, bending a character right into a corner, just like...
So like Spider-Man clinging on.
Mm-hmm. Or, like, being all squashed down.
Or being just sort of hanging off the ceiling.
Yeah. But not too far down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was good. This is a fun time.
Yeah, fun time. Lots of good characters with lots of personality.
Yeah. We're very, very silly,
Very silly.
as is our intent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for coming along, everyone. Speaking of very silly and making a little sense, we'll be back on Tuesday with Mortal Portal. Mortal? That's a word, isn't it?
Mortal Portal?
Mortal Portal.
As opposed to Immortal Portal.
Yeah. We will be destroyed by GLaDOS at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to continue with Portal on the Tuesdays.
On the choose.
Yeah. and there'll also be a morning stream on the Tuesday as well. And then on Wednesday we carry on with Hitman, going into the DLC to the bank for vaults. And it's all going to be fun. I had hoped to get a video out today, but so it's going to be tomorrow instead.
Yay, video.
So there should be a video out tomorrow. Hooray! Hopefully it's not boring. But
It's gonna be a fun video.
well,
It's gonna be a fun video.
Is that a threat? It better be.
No, it's more of just, all will find that fun. In that sense, it's its friends. I will be entertained by you.
The problem is it's based on music, and I always feel like I'm not being interesting when I'm just making music. And you can't like blast through music like you can with like a time lapse of art, because music, if you watch a time lapse of art, it still looks like art. If you listen to a time lapse of music, it sounds like chipmunks.
I mean, I like your last music videos, even though the problem with your music videos, or just music in general, is that I have no clue what's going on. It's just like, yes, this is a process that is happening, and it makes sounds. Yay!
Well, it probably won't help that I realised after filming the main bulk of it that I didn't explain anything I was doing.
Good.
So I went back and recorded a bunch more. But yeah, I do intend on some point of doing a little video about like how to write music from basic ideas, and just how to play with music and build it up and all that sort of stuff. And then maybe if people like that, do a video about actual music theory, scales and chords and such. So at the very least, there's a little bit of musical language that people can understand when I do music on stream. But speaking of a little bit of language, Portal coming soon. I will endeavour to look up. I'll endeavour to look up some grammar in between, because my grammar is atrocious, it turns out. Also remember.
I mean, you could always just point and shout words.
No, but I said to myself, I'm gonna try and speak sentences in this. It eliminates the point.
You can
work last time. We've got in. I'm still trying to work out how to do that level that we accidentally tried to do first.
Well, I believe we're just gonna get to it again, because I think it was a later. I think it was a level that Oops and I got stuck on when we played.
Oh, that bodes
So
well.
it was still in my save, so we're gonna get to it.
We'll get to it. I have some ideas, but obviously I haven't been in it again, so I'm just doing it from memory.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it way too much.
Then I think Oops and I looked at it last time and we went just like, what? I don't think we didn't figure it out clearly because we got stuck on it and never played it again.
It is possible to beat every single one of these rooms with a single person using 2 controllers, so
it's true, but they know what they're doing. And they don't have to worry about communicating to the other person.
Yeah.
Yes, it probably is possible to do the level if you bypass all the challenge, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's also just, not just even like another person they have to communicate with, but communicate in another language.
Yeah.
There is that, yes.
I am trying.
I don't know, you're trying and you're doing great. But it is like, you're still a beginner at the language, essentially.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the gel stuff. What's gel? I know Vlue stuff. Vlue stuff?
Fluey stuff.
Vlue stuff. So I know that, but what's gel?
Gel.
Gel? Okay, that's easy. And I know Knop.
Yeah. I repeated it enough last time.
That doesn't mean I'll remember it. There were
That's
plenty
good.
of other words you repeated that I've forgotten. But knop, I made a distinct effort to remember that. Anyway, I also realised only afterwards that it's basically the same as, well, it's not the same thing, but etymologically probably has the same root as knob,
Yeah, probably.
even though it's not a knob, it's a button. Anyway, we're gonna we'll talk more about this in Dutch on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I will try and make a handy cheat sheet for anyone in chat. It'll be wrong because I made it, but
I'll correct it.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming along. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll be back at previously specified points.
Goodbye.
Bye.